Geekazine's special coverage of HP Discover 2011 is brought to you by Iolo System Mechanic. Go over and use the code Geekazine for up to 50% off System Mechanic 10. And Wirecast. Produce all your video straight from your computer right to the internet with Wirecast. Go over to geekazine.com and click on the link. Of course, Geekazine is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. Over at techpodcast.com. If it's tech, then it's here. All right, continuing coverage of HP Discover, Jeffrey Powers with Geekazine and the Tech Podcast Network. We are here today with Issac Blake from HP and Doug Baer from one of the IT partners in the group. Which group are you from? It is called IT Partners. Oh, okay. Well, that's actually a pretty cool names. And basically what we're going to be talking about this morning is certification in a slightly different way. I remember when I was in the IT admin area, I worked for a company, actually for a government agency, and we actually built a brand new building. And I was part of the building planning committee, and it was a tough but very eye-opening experience to try and figure out how you're going to put the wires in, where you're going to put your nodes, where you're going to put your routers, your switches, what's going to be wireless, what's going to be wired system. Back then, we didn't have as much wireless stuff out there. It was just in its infancy and stuff like that. But you just got to think about these things. You just can't let a regular building contractor come in and put wires down. That's where this certification is. And yeah, it's going to be the ASE certification. So all you mechanics, you can listen up. You're also ASE certified. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Isaac, about what this certification is all about?
Well, the brand new master.
Closer. There you go.
Okay, the brand new master ASE CI Architect certification really starts addressing those type of issues. In other words, where we're dealing more with the businesses understanding what their requirements are relative to IT. So we're going to be talking to them about, well, what's going on to your business? What are your common business objectives? What is the value that you're looking for? What objectives are you trying to achieve? And then we can turn around and then start taking a look at our technology portfolio as well as their services to be able to provide results to that. So your analogy of, with the building experience that you have is spot on. In other words, we're sitting down having that discussion with business and IT leaders to really understand truly what's going on, help develop the plan, and then turn it over to, like in your terms, a general contractor to be able to actually deploy and implement the building that you were talking about.
What's the biggest problems that somebody would come across in building or putting together a building?
I think in this type of thing, with a conversion infrastructure architect, it's really demonstrating business value. For many years, IT, in the business perspective, is a black hole. In other words, they just keep on giving money, and they're not really sure, well, now, did that produce results? Did that, provide better service to my customers? Did that reduce my risk? Improve our agility, our ability to respond? Mm-hmm. That's the type of discussions that we're having with the customers at the CI architect level, is to be able to take a look at what are their critical success factors, and how do we turn those around, and then more importantly, how do we measure them? So we said up front we're going to reduce your cost by 2% or, decrease your processing time by 50%. Okay, now we can instrument it, but then also let's go back and measure it to make sure that we achieve those results. So then that way, now IT has something that they can turn back around and say, yes, we were able to achieve that. Very similar to what you were talking about on the building side. Did you meet all your goals and objectives? Well, there's the front end, but then there's also the back end validation as well.
Okay. So then you go back and you do the measuring on that, and then you figure out where any type of, I don't like to say mistakes, issues were made and how they can be fixed.
Correct. I mean, and it's an iterative process as you go through that. So therefore, we're not just coming in, well, here's technology, and by technology for technology's sake, let's apply to what is the business problem that we're trying to solve, and then use the technology to solve that. I guess the best example I could give would be when a company goes out to the power company, they talk only really about three things, don't they? They take a look at, here's the services that we need, mm-hmm. here's the service level that we need to obtain, mm-hmm. and here's the cost. And then they pretty much let the service provider, the electrical company, they're the ones that decide where do they need to have a substation, where do they put the transformer, and all the other things that's involved with that.
Okay.
Now we can do that type of things, with IT, being able to have those level of discussions. In other words, we want the business people to focus on what do they need to do to improve their environment, and then we can come along as the experts, taking a look at being able to turn that around, and with our knowledge to meet those goals and also be measured on it.
So what's the process on getting certified?
Well, for the Master ASE CI Architect, this is not just about a technical certification. So you really have to be able to go in and have the experience. So in other words, it's like a person flying a plane, right? They can read the books about it, but they need to have some time behind the throttle, for you to get there. So it's really a three-step process. In other words, there's an application process that you go through where you have to list your experiences in the industry, not only, technical certifications, but being able to, deal with those business level problems.
Yeah.
Then once you get past that point, then the next thing is a written examination that you must go through. That written examination, tests your ability both from a strategic but also a technical capability. And then finally you have a board review. Now this board review is really based on a real life example. So for example, day one, they came in and said, okay, we have an RFP that we need to respond to tomorrow. Here's all the information about the company. Here's what they're trying to achieve. Now you need to pull together this for the proposal tomorrow. Then the next day you go in and you actually give the proposal as if you're walking in and you've got the CEO, CFO, CIO, business unit people, architects, and you have to go in and show how you're going to solve their business problem and why HP provides that compelling reason to solve their problems.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. But in all reality, you want to do it right the first time.
Absolutely.
So,
measure twice, cut once.
Exactly. Now, Doug, you are IT partner as IT partner. I love that name. You got a good one there. So you do this. Your group does this for a living, right?
Yeah, I'm actually in the field. I'm a combination pre-sales and delivery consultant.
Okay.
So what we've seen is we're elevating the conversation from the hey, I want to buy a server to I want to buy a complete solution, and kind of this certification is about what that solution can do. As Isaac mentioned, what problem are you trying to solve? How can we help you? And how can we bundle that together?
Okay. What's the biggest problem when it comes to not a new building, but an older building? Let's say they're doing some remodeling, or they're putting in an infrastructure for the first time or the second time over, and the first time was pretty much a hodgepodge or old Cat 5 cable as opposed to something fiber.
Sure. So what we kind of look at is we're looking at the maturity of the organization. Where are you today and where are you trying to get to? And then how do we get you along that path to where you want to be so that your organization is more efficient?
Okay. And it also involves software planning too than hardware planning?
This certification is it's an infrastructure, so there is some software involved, which could be part of the change management. Depends on what the customer currently has implemented.
Okay. And how far does this go? Are we talking like an HVAC system or plugging in, or?
No, it's not that kind of infrastructure. More like server storage, networking.
Well, I'm talking like let's say that they do have an HVAC system that does run via computer, and that needs to be into the architecture and stuff like that.
I suppose there could be some integration, but the certification doesn't necessarily cover that.
Okay.
So, right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, my main question is both of you. I've been asking because asking for a website is kind of silly, hp.com. But my question to you is: are there any good books or white papers for you? You could tell me your website if there's anybody that's looking to do any type of building out there.
So our website is GoITpartners.com.
GoITpartners.com?
Yes.
That's a great website name, too. Is there any book or white paper that you guys would recommend that would talk a little bit about this certification, or about if somebody's doing some planning to put together a building?
Well, I think the certification is so new that there's no book out there on it. But the certification portal on HP's website, there is a guidebook on studying for the certification and kind of evaluating yourself to determine whether you're qualified to basically go through the process. And then part of the application and the test kind of are gating factors to getting to the board review.
Is there anything, since you're doing this with buildings with customers right now, is there anything that you would recommend an IT person to look over that is out there?
Someone who's looking to build
to get an
attain the
idea
certification.
to get an
or-
idea of what this certification's about. How, even with an IT person, maybe they want to change their field a little bit and go into this planning.
In that case, definitely the HP website. I mean, that's really where all of the resources are. So,
All right, Isaac, anything you want to add to that?
I guess part of this, it's going back to the analogy of the of the pilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can teach people a lot about, well, here's how you turn on the plane, turn on the radio, and things like that. So I mean, there's a lot of things out there, and HP's Expert One certification has all this great information and gives people the ability to improve their knowledge in those areas. What really distinguishes the CI architect, and again, now we're talking building as in a in a comparative model, because we're talking about technology holistically along with the businesses, is really getting out there and starting to drive themselves in their current position toward having those business level discussions. So a lot of times technical people will focus on the specific technology that they're in their area, but they don't start sitting there saying, well, what's the return on the investment? What is the critical business factor here? What is important? How does this help drive and improve the condition from the business? I think in their day-to-day life, that's one of the more important things that they need to do, is start understanding the business value and return on investment and other decisions, because I think that helps starts preparing them, and then they start understanding, well, what is it that the business leaders are looking for? What helps drive them, and that helps elevate them now to start seeing those things. Even with their current technical certifications, I think that will help them, because many times technical people get frustrated because they've got the right technical solution, but they can't articulate to the CFO or the CEO or even the CIO what's going on. And so as they start understanding that about, well, what's this thing called return on investment? What is this as far as the cost benefit analysis? Those type of things, that really prepares them now to start being ready for that.
Okay. Now, one more question here, and because this is what we've a couple days ago, they when they announced the EcoPod, they were touting, what was it, 88% efficiency, faster performance. These are the things that we could actually put into a building rather than them having something like an EcoPod. If that's not a solution for them, if they're building something, then we can give them a greener environment. We can give them a more efficient environment.
Well, and that's the wonderful thing about HP, and that's why we like to focus, even internally, quite frankly, as a member of HP's IT Transformation SWAT team. We get down to the talking to the business of, well, what do you need? And then we're the ones that go back and internalize, well, is it the right solution, a pod? Is it going out and building a new data center? Is it going out and doing something from a server storage networking perspective? And so when you take a look at that, focusing on those business requirements really helps drive the discussion, and then we can have those internal discussions among the subject matter experts to be able to to develop what is the right answer. And sometimes even it gets down to financial issues, right? Is it better to buy, lease? Is it better to have it in-house? Is it better to go out to the cloud?
Okay.
So again, by focusing on the business needs, knowing that we have such a rich portfolio behind us, gives us the flexibility, like an architect for the building, to come up with the different type of solutions to meet the customer's requirements.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's basically what certification is all about, and why, if you're building a new building or remodeling an old one, why somebody like an ASE certified CI architect, there we go, is really important. So, Isaac, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for you.
Doug, thank you very much for coming on the show. For HP Discover, if you're interested in any of this, do you guys have Twitter handles by chance?
Not yet.
I do. I'm D.O. Baer.
D.O. Baer? At D.O.B.A.E.R. D.O. Baer. You can just check the last name down here. For HP Discover, this is Jeffrey Powers with Geekazine and the Tech Podcast Network. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Our pleasure.
Geekazine's special coverage of HP Discover 2011 is brought to you by Iolo System Mechanic. Go over and use the code Geekazine for up to 50% off System Mechanic 10. And Wirecast. Produce all your video straight from your computer right to the internet with Wirecast. Go over to geekazine.com and click on the link. Of course, Geekazine is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. Over at techpodcast.com. If it's tech, then it's here.